Hi everyone, I hope you've been enjoying Winston so far, and I'm so glad that you are back now for chapter 16. So it's called Hello Dear. Winston's head was buzzing from his tumble and his ears were packed full of ice. He slowly sat up in the deep cold hole he'd made in the snow and clambered out, shaking his head as he did so. He was in a small clearing in a clump full of trees. Everything was white and frozen, and the falling snow made it all silent and still and strange. There was no sign of Hilda, so he began to tiptoe about, slowly trying to find something that would tell him either where he was or the whereabouts of his friend. Suddenly he bumped into a tree branch, except the branch cried, "Eek! Who's there?" and dived for cover. It was then Winston realised he hadn't walked into a tree at all. The branch was in fact a leg. It belonged to a small reindeer who was now standing on a tree stump, quivering. "How long have you been here?" the reindeer asked in a worried voice. His eyes darted about nervously. "Oh," said Winston, "only a few minutes. I fell from the sky. Well, from Hilda's back, really, but she was in the sky." The reindeer was now looking confused rather than terrified, so Winston started again, introducing himself and describing how Hilda had bumped her wing, causing him to tumble from her shoulders. "Now I've lost her," finished Winston, "but I've found you." The reindeer relaxed, hopped down from the stump and trotted lightly across the snow to Winston. He was very young, and Winston found himself wondering why he was out here all alone in the middle of the night. Had he misplaced his mum too? "I'm Jorgen," the reindeer said, "but everyone calls me Leighton. It means little, and well, I am quite small." "Not as tiny as you though." Winston had to agree with that. "Have you seen my friend Hilda?" he asked. "You can't mistake her. She's got a Christmas decoration on her head." Leighton shook his head. "I told Winston to come down with him. Someone in his herd might have spotted her. I should be getting back anyway," he said, looking around. Winston couldn't help but think Leighton was acting a little bit sheepish. The pair ducked out from the small patch of woodland and onto the vast frozen plains. The snow had now stopped and the night sky was clear and dark. In the distance, the northern lights were dancing like ribbons among the stars. The herd wasn't far away and they all gathered around something, apparently greatly excited. Leighton and Winston pushed through and found Hilda in the centre of things, ruffled and giddy, but thankfully all right. She'd obviously made chums with her rescuers. "And here he is," she cried in her loud voice. "My friend I was telling you about. Not hurt, are you?" "I've bashed the old wing a bit, but I'll be okay with some rest. When this lovely lot found me, I was an absolute block of ice. Thankfully, my dear new friend Gudrun sat on me for a bit to thaw me out, and here I am." She pointed with her good wing at an enormous reindeer who beamed. Hilda continued talking loudly and at a great speed, filling the herd in on her and Winston's adventure so far. "We were heading north, you see," she explained, in the hope someone might recognise the words to Winston's song. Using her good wing again, she pushed Winston into the centre of the herd. "Go on," she encouraged, "sing it." Winston suddenly felt very tired. There were lots of eyes on him and he had been on the go for days now, only managing to snatch moments of sleep. Every bit of him, from his ears to the end of his tail, felt droopy. He felt that singing the song again was useless. No one had recognised the words so far, so why would this time be any different? He kept getting excited that his mystery could be solved, but he was beginning to think it was hopeless. He sighed, took a deep breath, and sang the lullaby once more, his little voice ringing out across the vast, white, empty landscape. The reindeer listened carefully, but they all shook their heads. No one knew it. Winston nodded sadly. It was what he had expected. "Thank you anyway," he said with a brief smile. He felt cold and wanted to have more sleep, but Leighton said, "Wait a minute, where's Mormor? She might know." Mormor, Leighton explained, was his grandmother. "She knows lots of things," continued Leighton excitedly. "All the old snow stories from the herd. She's like a living history book. If anyone can help you, I'm sure it will be her." Winston felt his heart start to thud wildly in his chest, and his whiskers started to tremble. Could this be it? Could she finally be the one to recognise the lullaby? Mormor was located a little while away from the herd, fast asleep and snoring loudly. Leighton galloped over and woke her up. She was very old and quite hard of hearing, so Leighton had to explain 3 times what was happening before nudging. Winston right over to his granny. "Go on," said Leighton, "try it." Winston was even more nervous than before. Leighton's grandma was his last hope. Very slowly, trembling with anticipation, he clambered up onto Morma's antlers, and he was right by her ear. And as soon as he started singing, Morma's face lit up. Her eyes sparkled. "Know it?" she said. "Of course I know. My great-grandma used to sing it to me when I was a calf." Winston's heart drummed even faster. You know what language it is?" he whispered. Morma nodded her head, still smiling. "Of course I do," she twinkled. "It's Old North Polish." Winston's heart drummed harder. "My dear," Morma continued, "I think you might have been born in the North Pole." I hope you've enjoyed chapter 16 and come back for number 17.